is to basically provide you with an overview of the scheme. We will go through the eligibility criteria. We will move on to looking at the project requirements. We'll have a quick look at our internal timeline, and we will go through the assessment criteria and the mandatory attachments that need to be submitted with your applications. And then we will finally have a look at the internal processes. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask as we go along, or write them in the chat. It's entirely up to you. Okay, so the scheme itself, it is to support talented people in universities and businesses and other research and innovation environments. And they allow universities and businesses to develop their most talented early career researchers and innovators, to provide the opportunity to attract new people to organisations, including those from overseas. The scheme is available via funding through UKRI. This brings together the 7 disciplinary research councils. So this includes Research England and Innovate UK. And funding for the scheme is there to support ambitious research and innovation programmes across the entirety of the UKRI's remit. So the scheme aims to develop, retain, attract and sustain research and innovation talent in the UK. It fosters new research and innovation career paths and includes those academic and business and interdisciplinary boundaries, and will facilitate movement of people between sectors. It will provide sustained funding for resources for the best early career researchers and innovators, and it will provide long-term flexible funding to tackle difficult and novel challenges, as well as supporting adventurous and ambitious programmes. The fellowship is a flexible call, and it's designed to provide intellectual and financial freedom. So therefore, the fellow may change direction of their fellowship or their aspect of work once the award has been made. It is a highly competitive scheme, and increasing number of applications have been submitted in previous rounds, which has led to an increased burden on the research and innovation community for peer review purposes. Therefore, the number of applications that can be submitted per organisation has been capped. And for this particular round, we are capped at a maximum of 2 applications. The range for organisations is between 2 to 10, and this is usually based on the organisation's size. So to give an example, in the last few rounds, approximately 85 fellowships were awarded out of approximately 900 applications per round. So hence the large request of over 10,000 peer reviews. So hence the cap of us only being able to submit 2 applications. Now, as part of the application, we as a host organisation have to provide an inclusivity statement that describes the inclusive process that has been used to select the chosen candidates. This is completed via an online survey, and we have to detail the way in which the scheme has been promoted, how those who have made the decision have devised those decisions, and how unconscious bias was mitigated amongst a number of other criteria. So the decision process to which bids go through is tough. It's fair and inclusive. Now, as we provided this last year, for this round, we only have to confirm that the process hasn't changed. So The eligibility of the fellowships, as I mentioned, it is designed for early career academics and innovators who are transiting or establishing career independence. Applicants are expected to hold a doctorate by the start date of the fellowship, or be able to demonstrate equivalent research or innovation experience and/or training. So there are no eligibility rules based on the years since the PhD was completed, or whether an applicant currently holds a permanent or open-ended academic position. For those that do hold a permanent position, you should be able to show that their current position doesn't mean that they're achieving research or innovation independence. So describe why the Future Leaders Fellowship is different to their current role. And you should also state that the time costed to the fellowship will be dedicated to the fellowship, and as part of this, shielded from any other professional commitments. As well as all of this, you will need to show that the scheme would be the best way to support any long-term career goals. So senior academics or innovators are not permitted to apply, and candidates that are further towards being established as independent are becoming less competitive as the scheme progresses. So applications can be submitted within or across any area of research or innovation that is covered by UKRI, and this can include basic research through to applied research and innovation. Applications are encouraged from remits including arts and humanities, as well as the 7 technology families. So your application will be peer reviewed based on each individual research area. So if your project is multidisciplinary, it would be peer reviewed from a reviewer from each field. So it could potentially be that an application would be reviewed 3 or 4 times. The fellowships are normally based on a 4+3 year model. So funding is for 4 years with the option to apply to renew for up to 3 additional years in year 4. Applications should include details of the costings for the first 4 years or the equivalent length of time, excuse me, extended for pro rata or part-time applications. If you are applying for the 4+3 model, within the case for support, you need to make it clear that the long-term aims of the programme and why they matter. And you should only provide specific plans and costings for the first 4 years. Anything for the additional 3 will be sought at the review in year 4. So as a host organisation, we have numerous responsibilities, and we need to carefully consider whether an applicant's interest aligns with the organisation's strategies and interests before submitting the proposal. So as an organisation, we are expected to demonstrate and provide an appropriate working environment for the fellows. So not only including basic provisions such as office and laboratory space, but also the relevant training and mentoring support. We're expected to have an annual review process in place to assess the fellows' progression, and this should be administered in accordance with the relevant policies. The awards allow fellows protected time to commit to their research or innovation training and establish an independent position by the end of the award. So in most cases, a fellow is expected to spend 100% of their time on the award. Fellows may spend up to 6 hours a week during the initial phase of the award on other commitments and related activities which will enhance their career development. So, for example, this could be teaching or peer reviews or working on any other projects. Those with sustainable ongoing research commitments as a result of participating in any other grants must relinquish these in order to hold the Future Leaders Award. There are different rules for clinically active applicants or those undertaking patient-orientated research as part of the fellowship. So if this is the case for you, please do let us know and we can discuss this further. And as I have alluded to, fellowships may hold a part-time basis in order to combine their research or innovation with any personal responsibilities. So in all cases, the value of a part-time award should obviously be requested on a pro rata basis. Okay, looking at the project requirements, there's no limit on the amount of funding that you can request. However, you must request an appropriate amount and be able to justify this to meet the needs of the objectives of the proposal. So in previous rounds, the scheme has funded fellowships that range between 300,000 to about 2 million. So it really is worked on a case-by-case basis. The average project is usually awarded around 1.1 million. The funder wants to see value for money, but by this we don't mean costing everything cheaply. We mean costing it properly in order to run the project to support the ambitious research. As part of the fellowship, a salary will be provided, but an important point to make here is that the salary is tapered throughout the fellowship, and we are expected to commit to the funding an increasing percentage of the applicant's salary as the fellowship progresses. The next few slides will show you this in a little bit more detail. The commitment of the host organisation should be detailed in the host organisation letter and should confirm an open-ended UK-based international research or innovation position to be taken up during or on completion of the fellowship. And the start date of the award should be realistic and would normally be between 2 to 6 months after the interview stage of the application process. So looking at the tapered salary in a little more detail, as this is UKRI funding, the full economic costing methodology will be applied. So the salary will be tapered throughout the fellowship. A quick definition, in case you've not come across FEC methodology before, is the full economic cost of the project is the full cost to the university to undertake the activities. So this will include your direct and indirect costs. So as shown in the table, in year 1 and year 2, the host organisation will request or can request 100% of the salary from the award. And UKRI will contribute 80% of the total award request, leaving us with a 20% contribution. And as the fellowship progresses to year 3 and 4, we can request 75% of the salary from the award, of which UKRI will contribute 60%. So this level of contribution and the request that we make will reduce year on year as the fellowship passes. So as I previously mentioned, within the main application, you only need to include the costs for years 1 to 4. Another important point to note here is COVID-19 is still obviously very present in society. However, the funder have asked that applications are based on information that is available at the time of submission. So if things change, this will be accounted for by UKRI, but they have requested that contingency plans are not needed. They want you to still include costs for travel and other elements of the proposal. If you're successful and circumstances change, UKRI will manage this post-award. So in previous rounds, they have been very flexible with start dates, and they have also permitted no cost extensions. Okay, moving on to look at the internal timeline. So due to the limit on the applications and the requirement for the inclusivity selection process, we have put some internal deadlines together, as you can see from the screen. So as part of this, you are required to complete a university intent to submit form alongside a 2-page CV. And this needs to include information around your primary area of research or innovation, the fellowship plan itself, so the applicant and the development details, leadership and career intentions, and impact and strategic relevance of the fellowship. Excuse me. The form alongside your CV needs to be submitted to funding@wlv.ac.uk. And one of us within the bidding support team will pick this up. And the deadline for that is Tuesday, the 9th of May by midday. And we'll provide you feedback from that by the 15th of May. Sorry, is there a question? No, okay. There's a wide variety of mandatory attachments that have to be submitted with the application. And we'll go through that in the next few slides. However, we do ask that it is key that you keep us involved at all stages, and we can help with guidance with ensuring that the attachments are within the guidance from the funder. So, for example, things, page limits, font sizes, margin sizes. So if you're able to work with us throughout this, we can ensure that this is all correct prior to submission, and which will minimise the risk of it being returned by the funder once submitted. Excuse me. So moving on to look at the assessment criteria. The 2 selected submitted applications will be assessed by a 3-stage review. And this includes a written peer review by the sector or discipline expert, shortlisting by the funder SIFT panels, and then potentially an interview. As I mentioned before, it's expected that your application would probably be reviewed by at least 3 independent reviewers to cover the fact that it could potentially be multidisciplinary and to ensure that it is understood by the reviewers. Now, it's possible for you to nominate up to 3 reviewers to assess your application, and UKRI will possibly call on one of those reviewers to support them. So when assessing your application, the reviewers will be focusing on these 4 areas on the screen. And we'll go through these now in a little more detail. So the research and innovation excellence. This is basically your case for support, and this is the basis of your proposal. So you'll need to discuss the aims and objectives, your methodology and appropriateness and rigour of the approach that you're planning on using. why the research and innovation will be competitive in its field, and you need to highlight any plans that are particularly novel or unique and its feasibility. Discuss how the technologies or particularly difficult or risky studies will be tackled and outline alternative approaches if these were to fail. Identify where access to facilities and resources will be required and their benefit to the project. And discuss the overall potential of the fellowship in establishing or maintaining distinctive and outstanding research and innovation activities. So looking at the applicant and their development, the applicant needs to be recognised as the highest standard relative to their career stage and on trajectory to become world class. You must provide clear evidence of independence and leadership, which may go beyond their normal level of expected in any current positions. Discuss how the fellow's career trajectory aligns with the objectives of the scheme, and demonstrate an ability for them to become or a clear communicator and disseminator of knowledge and innovation. They need to be able to inspire and lead others and have the ability to develop new relationships and influence across multidiscipline sectors. You'll also need to demonstrate the ability to identify and implement good practices in matters relating to modern research environment, so such as research integrity, responsible research and innovation, and equality, diversity and inclusion. Show that you have a broad understanding of the research and innovation landscape at both national and international level, and clearly show how the research or innovation project will contribute to it. Also have a clear plan to support the training and development of the fellow for gaining advice or mentorship and supporting not only the programme but also their broader professional development. So looking at the impact and strategic relevance, you need to show the importance of any potential impact of the research or innovation for society and the economy. So, for example, look at key UK societal challenges and current UK economic successes, or establish or maintenance of unique world-leading research activities. Detail what are the potential short-term or long-term impacts and how significant they are, and demonstrate that the pathways to achieving this impact are well understood and the plans for maximising impact are proportionate, timely and credible. And the second point here is around where the fellowship proposal aligns with the specific priority area identified by UKRI and its relevance. So bear in mind that the assessment will look at how strongly the proposal fits with the aims for the area and how it will contribute alongside other proposals and activities within the same priority area. So finally, looking at the research and innovation and costs, you need to discuss and demonstrate commitment as a host organisation to realising the potential of the fellow. So why is this the best place for them to undertake the fellowship? How will it help them to maximise their development and establish themselves as a research or innovation leader? And consideration must be given to the equality, diversity and inclusion aims of UKRI. and if applicable, their wider team, and in using the Fellows' provision for flexible working. Include any plans around supporting the Fellows' programme of work, enabling the time committed needed, ensuring that they have access to space and equipment and resources. And as mentioned before, ensure that the funding you are requesting is fully justified and appropriate. Provide detail on project plans and management arrangements, ensuring that these are appropriate to the scale and complexity of the activities that are being undertaken. So that sort of brings us to the end of the key things that the assessors are looking for. Once your application has been assessed, you would have the opportunity to respond to any of the reviewer comments. So moving on to looking at the requirements for the mandatory attachments. The slide shows you the requirements. So the case for support, so the document that would need to include all the information that we've just been through, can be a maximum of 8 sides of A4. There is a template provided for the CVs and the outputs, so please obviously follow this. The data management plan must demonstrate how the applicant will or already meets their responsibilities for research, data quality, sharing and security. And we must provide a head of department statement, which must be dated, signed and on letterhead, of which we can support you with. And the justification of resources, this is where you'll include a list and justify all of the items that you're requesting for funding. The work plan needs to be simple, so we suggest a PERT or a Gantt chart, because you will need to demonstrate the full duration of the project, and specific timelines and milestones should clearly be shown. And depending on the involvement of other colleagues and partners, there are other letters of support that are required. So we can go through this with you in further detail at the time. As you can see, they all have different page limits, so it's key that you follow the guidance, because anything over these limits, the application will be returned. So hence we say work closely with us and follow the guidance. Okay, looking at our institutional processes, the usual bidding processes will apply here. So this will include a peer review where it will be sent to 2 members of the funding peer review college, and their feedback will be provided to you. So following this, you should consider their feedback and obviously address this within your final draft, which will then be sent over to the Head of Research Services for institutional review and sign-off. The RDMs, the Research Development Managers, will support applications with bid writing and bid development. So these are also key. The 3 RDMs are Amy Tam, who supports with physical sciences, Susan Goodlad, she supports with health and life sciences, and Francesco Paradiso, who supports the Faculty of Arts and Business and Social Sciences. So colleagues within the bidding support team will help with drafting the costings. We will liaise with finance and provide PCB advice. We meet with the faculty enterprise team regularly, so keep each other up to date. And we can also help with any institutional approvals. All bids must be recorded on the PCB system and approvals given prior to the submission of the bid. The bid will be submitted via the GES system. And institutional approval will need to be carried out by one of us within the bidding support team. and we will be available to provide this support in conjunction with you and make any final checks prior to submission. Sorry, have you got a question?
Lisa, as I understand, UKRI is finishing with the JETS system in May.
Yes. So some things it's not coming to a complete stop.
Okay.
So it's I think it's a slow process because I think there's obviously quite a few funders that use the system.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's all happening at the same time. Some funders have or will be very soon stopping submission via JES. But as far as I'm aware, this is still being submitted via the JES system, and we have double checked this. So this
Okay.
one will continue on JES, and so this is one of the few that we can continue to submit via JES.
I see. Yeah. So, for example, ESRC, as I understand it, they are stopping in May.
Yes.
But for this particular scheme, ESRC will accept application through
Yes.
JES.
So we continue on JES.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes,
Thank
as
you.
we are.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Okay.
So continuing with this, is there an alternative coming for JES, or is it something as the Innovate UK does, so direct application?
There is a new system that will take over, but I don't think it's until June. Helen, are you aware of the date of the new system?
I think that they're plan to have all calls fully migrated over by the end of this year. So like Lisa was saying, they're doing it in stages, and various calls are changing, ending in JES, and then will open in the new funding service at various different points. So yeah, there will be an alternative system, but we're hoping that this will be a simpler, more streamlined system, and a bit easier to use than JES. So yeah, I can send you some more information about that following the meeting, if that would be useful.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of the briefing session. There's just a few key points there around submitting the intent to submit form by the 9th of May, together with your CV. And then we will provide you with feedback by the 15th. And obviously there's a maximum of 2 applications that can be submitted, so hence this process. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, there we go.
Yes. There are 2 points. One is, what is considered as a senior academic? So obviously I'm a senior lecturer. So am I on the borderline, or, where would I stand in terms of that?
Okay, that's a very good question. I would suggest we discuss this outside of this meeting, because I think we will probably need to delve into that a little bit further and double check the guidance.
In that case, perhaps we should actually go offline now. Off the
Potentially.
records, there are follow-up questions which might actually need more, clarification at this time. So
Yes.
okay.
Helen, would you mind stopping the recording, please?
Yeah, no problem. 1 second, let me just do this.